What's up, everybody? Nick, aka Dream and Dreamer of MT, bringing you a Shadow Sanguinary Hard Mode guide today. We're going to go through each of the bosses one by one, so let's get right into it. Alright, so the first boss is going to start exactly the same. He's going to laser the first unit to walk in. Some people like to throw a thrall first so that the tank doesn't have to take the first one, but if your tank is experienced, it won't really matter. The first thing that you're going to realize as a tank in this dungeon is that when this boss is not enraged, he is going to hit through your block for a lot. If you are not in full plus 15 VM, he might actually kill you in like a single motion where if he's swiping forward, his swipes forward will just bleed through your block so much that you'll die. So as a tank, you're going to have to get used to staring at the boss's HP bar and making sure that if he's not enraged that you are dodging his attacks instead of blocking them. Another thing about hard mode is the totems now get put on everyone, including the healers, regardless of if anyone is dead. The only person safe from this is the tank holding aggro. And everything he does hurts a lot fucking more. I am in full Starfall on my ninja in this video, and he still hits me very, very hard. You're always going to want to shoot the lasers at the totems as soon as possible. Again, if you're a tank, you're probably going to get a lot of lasers because the laser won't always target the furthest person anymore. It's kind of random. So if you're a tank, it's really, really nice if you're able to reposition yourself so that if you get aggroed by the laser, you can kill the totems too. It just makes it a lot easier because I see a lot will get totem phase and then the tank will get focused twice and the tank doesn't kill the totems and the totems start firing everywhere and people start dying. So regardless of what role you are, you should always be ready to kill totems, in my opinion. A good way that I've done totems is that you always jump to the healer or healers. He still does the shield phase. Shield phase is a little bit harder to break in hard mode, but you should be able to do it if the totems aren't firing off under you. They shouldn't be. I think it's a bug when they do, but it shouldn't be going off, so you guys should be fine to kill them. I've wiped plenty of times to just going over the boss, attacking him, and then the totems randomly start going off on you and kill you all. And then anyone that didn't get finished off by the totems will get finished off by the boss's wipe, which cannot be goddessed or rezzed through. He'll keep on wiping over and over again until he resets. He does webbing, just like in normal mode. Again, it won't one-shot you, and it doesn't put a debuff on you. Here you're going to see me kill one of my teammates because they decided to go chill next to the totems, which is never a good idea. Even if you are running away from the boss because you're low HP or something like that, always be mindful of where the totems are, because you will get sniped by your teammates trying to kill them. But yeah, I think the hardest part about this boss is definitely the tank learning when and when he cannot tank the hits. If he's in full plus 15 Starfall or VM7 or stuff like that, then it's going to be a lot easier on them. And if you're coming in here on Slaughter, you're probably going to have to pay a lot more attention to that kind of thing than other people will. If you're having problems breaking shield, you can have a ninja in your party always hold Flame Avalanche to break it. It almost solo breaks it by itself when you use it, because Flame Avalanche is pretty strong. But yeah, when you're learning this dungeon, and especially the third and first boss, you're probably going to want to come in here with the composition of a tank that knows his class very, very well, knows the nicks and crannies of it, and you're going to want to double healer it with a Mystic and a Priest. With how much utility a Mystic brings to the party, it's the same as having a third DPS, basically. The crit aura is amazing, and if you're a semi-DPS Mystic, then you can even throw an extra 300k in there yourself while still supporting the team being a healer and rezzing people that need it. But yeah, I think the majority of this boss is learning on your tank's end, and everybody else's job is just basically learning how to place totems down and how to kill them quickly. Other than that, he's pretty much the same as normal mode. He hits a little bit harder, but nothing that seems unfair unless you're the tank and he's not enraged. But yeah. So that's it for the first boss, and let's get right into the next one. All right, so the second boss is something that you should all be familiar with from normal mode. He basically does the same things with, I think, only one new mechanic. At 95%, he'll go straight into a mob phase, and it'll only summon a Lancer and an Archer, kill them with the laser, or just kill them by yourselves. You make sure that you always want to clear mobs on mob phases 100%. They will turn into ball throwing huge fire pylons if you do not kill them in time. He still does pizza slice. Now, what most parties like to do is they like to burn the pizza slice so far that you go straight into you skip the ball summon, which we didn't do in this run, but and then you go straight into blood shards, which is the new mechanic for hard mode, where he'll put red highlights all over the floor in 5 different patterns, and you have to get into a safe zone. During this, it's most parties' goals to burn past 70% so that you skip another mob phase, because during the mob phase, he has like a 90% damage reduction buff, so you barely touch him. So you just basically want to keep burning him from pizza phase into blood shard phase over and over again. A perfect run of this boss, you'll never see any balls and you'll only see the first mob phase. It's pretty hard to do all the way through, especially once he loses his enrage from the beginning. But an average party, I would say, can burn through at least like 2 of the mob phases at the beginning or throughout the boss in general. But even once you start getting mob phases, as long as everyone coordinates, it's perfectly fine. You see that after a certain percent, the pizza slice stops being blue that's safe and just starts being an empty one. So you're going to have to keep your eyes peeled for that. Another glitch that happens with this boss is sometimes he turns while he's putting down highlights, and so it might move the safe zone. So you always have to be ready for that, and I've wiped my fair share of parties to the boss spinning around and no one knowing where the fuck the safe zone moved to. You basically always want to use lasers to kill mobs. The laser basically one-shots all of the mobs. Mobs aren't that tanky by themselves regularly, but it just makes it a lot easier. If you have aggro of the mobs, do not run away from them in a huge circle around the map. Try to bring them into the center, have your tank AoE them down, or have them in range of getting hit by a laser themselves. Again, these highlights right here are un-iframeable, so make sure that you are not trying to do that. The only things that work through it are damage absorptions, like Gunner Pool, Stone Skin, and I think Shadow Bomb works through that. Also, the bombs in hard mode are really, really bad at being desynced. Sometimes you'll get hit for 70k from a ball that was nowhere near you on your screen. So just be wary that you never want to be anywhere near the purple balls or anywhere near their path that they're going to be or they came from, because it's really, really buggy and you will get hit by them. He still does his basic attacks. Whenever he does the thing where he puts his staff up and shoots a ring of lasers around it, he'll always do a back swipe after that. So always be ready for that. There you see the balls juking the shit out of me, trying to get me killed. I mean, pretty much it's exactly the same. 20% you're going to have to burn him. I recommend dropping Smoke Bomb on the floor here like you see me do right now. Flame Avalanche will sometimes just end the whole 10% by itself if the boss is debuffed and you get some good crits in there. And now that this boss is over, it's time to get to the real fun. Alright, the third boss fight. Going to be where we're having all of our fun and most of our wipes. This is where you're going to spend hours and hours learning. So sit back and and get ready to feel the aids. It's going to start the same way. He's going to charge at whoever walked in first, throw a line at them, and then do an AoE where you need to get close to him. The first thing that you're going to want to learn about this boss is that healers can steal aggro of the boss, or at least secondary aggro of the boss, by spamming res. So what they do is they sit on the outside and they spam the beginning of res on nothing and then let it go and cancel it over and over again to steal the attention of the boss, and they'll get a secondary circle aggro on them that'll try to blow them up. They jump out of the first one you see here, and then they iframe the second one, or tank it with Corruption Ring or Kaya's. If you have two healers, they should both be doing it, switching it off. Primarily, it should be the most skilled healer in your party's job to do it. Both can do it well, Mystic and Priest. It's preferred that Priest does it so that Mystic can stay in range of the DPS to give them crit auras, and if anyone gets swiped, then they'll be in range to cleanse them immediately from the debuff. He does mob spawns pretty much periodically throughout the fight. There's a few times where he force summons mobs, and I'll talk about those when we get to them. Cage is exactly the same. It gets faster and faster as he gets more power and speed buffs throughout the fight. Most things you can survive, save smatches if you're not a class that has a block, but until he gets down to his 20% phase. Another thing I want to talk about in this boss is once you get him below 20%, a 2-minute timer starts, and you have 2 minutes to kill him before he gets like a 500% damage and attack speed buff, and he'll just start doing things so quick that you'll iframe multiple attacks in one iframe and kill you the second you get out of it. So you make sure that you're always ready to go and your party is clean and everyone's alive when you want to break the 20% mark so that you can burn it safe and clean. Yeah, I would say that you should have learned the swipes and the smashes and their tells in normal mode because they're exactly the same, except for you can survive them in normal mode. The only difference is they will fuck you up in hard mode. But that's what normal mode should be used for, is to be able to learn his regular animations of the swipes. And hard mode is where you get put to the test of literally dodging everything and being ready for his mechanics going off back to back to back. The mobs are a lot harder to kill in hard mode, and they can't be pushed by bull rush like they can in normal mode. Another thing that he does in this boss you've seen multiple times is retargeting. He'll yell that he's retargeting, target the closest person, put a debuff on them, and then try to stab them. The stab doesn't do very much damage. Just jump back from him and he'll go back to doing his regular thing. You keep seeing in the background the healers are switching off, taking secondary aggro with res spam, so that we get a couple seconds of free DPS in between each of his mechanics. It really, really, really does help. So even if you're learning this dungeon completely as a healer, you should be learning how to do it with the res spam. He still does shield 70 and 50% the same way normal mode, except for you can push him to skip them if you do enough DPS, or at least he'll skip them for a while and come back to them later in the fight. You see here that he did his first one at around 50 or 40%, so you can definitely burn him down all the way without seeing one. It's just really difficult to do. So just always be ready and know that he can shield at any point. Sometimes he'll force spawn. This is one of them. When you break under 40%, he'll force spawn mobs and do a cage. And once he is below 40%, he will also put debuffs on you sometimes when a cage starts. You can see on my debuff bar right there in the corner that I have a red skull with a number in it. That indicates the number of cage lines you have to get hit by. So if you have a 3, you have to get hit by 3 of the ticks inside the cage and dodge everything else. You'll be able to survive them. They'll do very little damage to you. You should be able to tank them perfectly in slaughter if you're at full HP. You will not be able to tank the lines, however, if your debuff is gone. You'll get anywhere from 1 debuff to 4, so make sure that you're always checking your number and always making sure you get rid of them. If you do not get rid of all of your debuffs during a cage, you will die a couple seconds afterwards to the debuff. Another time he force summons mobs is at 25%. When you break 25%, he will force summon mobs. I recommend that when you're learning, or if you're in a party that doesn't have really, really good experienced DPS, that you wait for the mobs, spread out at 25%, push them past it, kill all the mobs, and then once you're all alive, you survive the cage, you survive the debuffs, then you push him into the 2-minute timer. In this party, we didn't do that. We had the DPS to just completely push through it. It's risky whenever you do it this way, so it's always better to clear the mobs at 25% before you go into the timer mode. Again, make sure that you are never taking two debuffs of the retargeting, otherwise he will jump to you and throw you. It's iframeable, it'll target the furthest person away. We didn't really ever get anyone stabbed during this, so I didn't get to show it. But basically, if it gets down to another mob summon during the burn, you want to completely ignore the mobs, sleep as many as you can, stun as many as you can, and just burn the boss. And there you have it. This boss, or this whole dungeon in general, I feel isn't done justice by a guide. I can tell you everything that's going to happen in a run, and I can be over your shoulder calling out things right before they're about to happen, but that still won't make it any easier to actually go through it. You're going to have to spend lots and lots and lots of time wiping in this dungeon before you understand the mechanics well enough to be able to not die to stupid things, that you guys can completely clear mobs, that you guys can completely get your debuffs gone, that you're ready for it, that you notice when he cages and you don't get debuffs, so you don't try to tank lines that you can't take. And overall, this is the hardest dungeon that's probably come out since SCHM. SCHM is probably the only thing that beats this dungeon. Timescape and FIHM were nowhere near as hard as this, in my opinion. But I figured I would put something out, even if it is like 3 weeks late for you guys. I hope that I helped, and have fun learning this dungeon. I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.